Always when people come and make cocktails and taste it.
Really?
He's too
Okay.
Good afternoon. If you don't know me, I'm Tom Villani. I was the lucky guy that got to marry Julie. And welcome. Welcome. And I tell you what, we could not have picked a better day for today, and I'm not sure that we picked it. I think right now that there is a big smile beaming down on us, and that's the sunshine that we're getting right now. Thanks, hon. Thank you for attending this celebration of life for Julie. Your presence nearly 17 months after her passing, and despite a surging pandemic, demonstrates her influence on our lives. And it really impresses me, you guys. Thank you. I also appreciate that many of you had to rearrange your work schedules in order to be here. And thank you for keeping Julie's memory alive and coming to honor her life tonight. I'm going to put out a few things just to help us about this evening. If you haven't visited the welcome table with the lovely couple standing behind it that's waving at everybody, please see Kelly and Alan. Go get signed in. Let us know that you're here because I want to know who's here. They'll give you beverage coupons. Well, unless Alan has used them all. You'll also get a commemorative glass for the evening. And you get to keep it afterwards too, not just tonight. You can download the evening's program on your cell phone on the QR code that they have over there. So you don't have to rely on me to keep track of what we're doing because a bright shiny object. There's also envelopes over there where you can put your address on those if you want to receive the Smiles for Julie decal, and we will mail those to you. You can check out the slideshow and the pictures on the easels over here that are being modeled by Lisa Day. And on those easels are picture boards that Julie put together herself a few years ago. After I shut up, we will have dinner provided and dished up by taste buds in just a few moments. And then eulogies at about 5:30 or so. Please do not move the tables around. And in the tasting room, please wear your mask. Let's help Martin Scott Winery comply with the mandates. They didn't make these rules, so let's help them stay open and in business. And Julie requested that there be no funeral service, but she did want a party. And as you know, with Jules, that meant food, wine, music, and dancing. So check, check, and check. Those are covered this evening, but most of all, to Julie, a party is a gathering of friends coming together to share stories, happiness, and laughter. And with your participation, we will do that as well. I hope you've been noticing the background music. The selection includes songs that were chosen by Julie, as well as some that she loved. And then there's also songs that remind us about her life, as well as about her passing. You may not know everybody here, so I'd like to point out some individuals who have made a great contribution to making this evening come together. Believe me, it is not possible to pull this off alone. As I call you out, please rise and remain standing. A thank you to our hosts, Mike and Chris Scott of Martin Scott Winery. This venue was a natural since Julie loved the view, the ambiance, the founders, and of course, the wine. One of the wines this evening is the Tribute Rosé that was released last year in honor of Chris's mom. When you drove in, you likely met Bill Johnson, who helped guide you to a parking spot. Bill, there, he is standing over there by the TV. He's also been helping me prepare for this evening so it remains meaningful and upbeat. In addition, he and Lisa Day, Tim and Linda Bollinger offered room in their homes to those attending from out of town. And thank you guys for that wonderful generosity. Walking in, you encountered the big smiles of Alan and Kelly Walker at the welcome table. They also pitched in substantially behind the scenes. Those of you from out of town received a welcome packet which they created and helped distribute. And of course, a big thank you to Elisa Davis Stretzel and the Taste Buds team. They'll be dishing up dinner for us shortly. More than that, Elisa brought her planning skills literally to the table to ensure a smooth, joyous event. I cannot overly thank or promote Taste Buds enough. With your dinner, you'll be enjoying a luscious signature treat of lemon cheesecake created by Candy Armstrong. Before that, you'll also be checking out your table setting with the Smiles for Julie logo. And Candy conceived, designed, produced, and distributed these decals as a labor of love in memory of Julie. So, Candy, where are you?
She's right here.
Thank you very much, Candy. Mary Ann Ballard. Stand up, girl. There you are. Where to begin? She has taken on this party from early last summer, and you never let it go. I can't imagine or count the hours put into creating and evaluating the ideas and putting together the special touches, such as the place settings, the photographs on the tables, the flowers and vases, and don't forget those commemorative wine glasses. Thank you. Stay up. Manny Navarro worked with Julie at Costco and volunteered his DJ services and equipment right away. Manny and so many others at Costco wonderfully project the bigger concept of family that Julie and I appreciate. If you're part of the Costco team, stand up. Stay up, Lisa. This is my microphone. You do as I say. If you traveled more than 500 miles to be here, please stand. If your journey was more than 300 miles, please stand. You guys, 324 miles, not that I know. If you covered more than 100 miles to be here, please stand up for us. And if you knew Julie as a special person or a dear friend, please stand. If you didn't know Julie, but you're here to support me or someone else who did know her, please stand. I think we got you all, right? Good. Stay standing a moment. Because if you couldn't attend this evening, but you're watching a recording from home, go ahead and stand up at home. You're also part of this gathering. Thank you all. But before you sit down, look around you. See what I see. There may be faces and names you don't know, but there are no strangers here. You see people with whom you have a lot in common. You may have seen each other's comments on the Smiles for Julie website. Our similarities are stronger than our differences, and our similarities have brought us together. These are friends you haven't met. Recall what I said earlier about Julie's idea of a party, bringing friends together to share stories, happiness, and laughter. I hope you'll reach out and introduce yourself to someone you don't know. Share your story about why you're here and laugh together. There'll be some stories and thoughts about Julie shared in about 45 minutes. And now, I believe, Elisa will tell us dinner is served. Thank you for your attention. Did anybody enjoy dinner?
Yes!
Nice. That is taste buds all the way. Anyway, it was, yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to have some eulogies now, and Julie's brother Kevin will kick it off and get us started. So, oh, Kevin ran for the parking lot. Oh, there he is. This is Julie's brother, Kevin Nemeth.
All
right.
Thanks, Tom. As Tom said, I'm Julie's brother. I want to point out I'm Julie's younger brother. Something that seemed to evade her throughout the years. In fact, every card I got, as long as I remember, I was always 2 years older than her. But despite that, we were very close, both in age, only 18 months apart, she being the older. And we were close as brother and sister, which is kind of hard to believe given how much she tortured me growing up. There's this event we call the Great Shovel Event. And it seems we were out playing in the backyard one day, and digging around, and all of a sudden I got whacked in the head with a shovel. Now, I'm sure if someday I go bald, people will think I had to have had brain surgery because the scar will be so big. She claimed it was an accident. I have my suspicions to this day, otherwise. Many of you know Julie also. She had a pretty good size of teeth. She had big teeth, big smile, and I think she was actually born with those teeth. I'm not sure she ever had baby teeth. Well, she used those teeth, she weaponized those teeth when we were growing up. And she could bite on you like nobody's business. I remember her chomping on my shoulder, my arm, just until I'd howl, but she was always smart enough to bribe me with cookies so I wouldn't tell Mom. The other thing that Julie loved, now some of us are blessed or cursed with what's known as a cowlick. I have one right back here. For some reason that drove Julie nuts. She would attack my cowlick like a pack of hyenas on a carcass. She'd wrap her hand around my head and she'd try and rub that thing off with her knuckles. And I'm not talking about just when I was young. This occurred my entire life. Not long ago, my wife Treva and I were floating the Madison River in Montana, and we had stopped for a bite, and I saw this shadow fluttering around, and lo and behold, it was a butterfly. And now, these are mild, beautiful creatures, but this thing was an attack butterfly. And it kept diving at my head. And we, to this day, believe it was Julie trying to get one last shot in at that cowlick. We grew up on Our parents had a cabin in Concanelli. Some of you may know of that, north of here, on a lake, and we'd spend all our summers there. We had lots of fun. We'd walk to town for ice cream, a mile and a half. We'd ride bikes with no pedals, which was quite a chore. We'd fish off the dock, and we'd have pine cone fights. And occasionally, we'd look for rattlesnakes with the neighbors. And no, there was no video games back then. The other thing we loved to do was have fires and roast marshmallows. And I think that's where Julie started becoming an excellent cook. She'd make great marshmallow sandwiches. My wife Treva and I, and as many of you know and have enjoyed Julie's creations over the years, stuff like veggie lasagna, prosciutto wrapped asparagus, her ribs that were slow cooked and then finished on the grill. Kind of makes my mouth water just thinking about it. We still make many of those recipes. My sister also had a spontaneous side to her. She, in fact, my wife and I got married on the Yakima River, literally on the river in a drift boat. And our reception was in this dusty camp, and Julie actually made a wedding cake and brought it to that ceremony. It was wonderful. That kind of spontaneity was nice because it helped balance out the Uber planner. No names, Tom. Treva and I had an opportunity to visit her when she first moved to Wenatchee in her apartment. And it was a time of transition. She was doing well. Shortly thereafter, she met Tom and was very happy. Julie had an easygoing, friendly spirit. She truly wanted to hear what people had to say. My last time I saw Julie was in this photograph. This is when her and Tom, I just happened to be in Florida with a buddy, and her and Tom were down there. They had spent time with her kids in Mariel, north of there, and we met them in Key Largo. I like this picture. I had an opportunity to take this picture at lunch in Key Largo. And this is how I remember Julie. Funny, laughing, and hungry. That's how I remember my sister. She has missed but will not be forgotten. And I'm sure when I get a chance to see her again, I'll still be 2 years older. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. That was nice. Max? Okay. We'll come around to you later. Josh Walker? This is a co-worker of Julie's from some years ago.
Hello. My name is Josh. I worked at the Costco bakery from 2009 to 2012, I believe. When you first get to know me, most people will say I'm quiet, reserved, and I kind of keep to myself. When I don't really know people, I just keep to myself. I met Julie in the bakery, and she wasn't having it. she she saw me. Omar brought me in to the bakery to close, and she wanted to get to know me. So she started just talking to me. She had treated me like she knew me for years, and she just, I don't know how to describe it. She's just asking a bunch of questions, getting me talking, and she's a big reason why I am open up more now. I was quiet, and I saw her as like a mom back there, always looking out for everybody. One thing I do remember from her was the stories she would tell and the trips she would take, from talking to trips with her husband Tom to the lives her children led. I was just kind of blown away that the lady wanted making cakes, making it look easy. When I got to know her, I never thought that she would be living the life she was. She's just a sweet, genuine person, always cared, kind, big-hearted. She always wanted to know what I was up to, how are things going with me, everything. She just was just a genuine person. And then I knew I had to speak because the way I found out of her passing, that I had to speak and tell her that she basically, kind of blank here, she just, I guess, took that quiet kid in the bakery to somebody who's outgoing, fun, kind-hearted. I have a wife and 2 kids now that I think Julie would really smile at the fact that my wife is making cakes now, has her own business and everything, but she's just so fun to be around and always brightened up any environment she was in. I remember the late days at the bakery, those 24-hour shifts for Thanksgiving. She was there. We were all going crazy, and she just was level-headed. Didn't let anything bug her. If something was going on, she just just took it how it came, and just dealt with it. And she touched so many people over her whole life, and yeah, she was one of my favorite people, I would say, that I worked in the bakery with, because she was always trying to, I guess, keep an eye out on me, because we were all kind of crazy in our own ways. I don't know if she would like me telling that I felt like she was like the mom of the group back there, but I knew she loved us all, and we all loved her, and we all cared about each other, and she was always there for each other. So yeah.
Thank you, Josh. Maureen?
Oh goodness, always this issue. There we go. Yes. All right. My name is Maureen Stivers, and I'm a friend of Tom and Julie's from many years back. Was fortunate enough to be friendly with Tom when he met Julie, and that was a really wonderful thing for both of them. As Josh mentioned, Tom and Julie travel. And some years ago, they told me about one of their adventures, and I decided to write it because I thought it was really quite something in a collection of travel anecdotes I was writing at the time. I think this one is about 10 years old. Tom, once I get going, you're going to know what this is and you'll know how many years ago. Okay? All right. All right, this piece is called Arms and the Woman, as told to me by Julie and Tom Villani. There are as many ways to spend a vacation as there are vacationers. One of the choices all tourists must face is the degree to which one wishes to participate in organized activities. Extremes of this are solitary backpacking in the Alaskan wilderness versus the typical Japanese tour for which every moment is accounted. Tom and Julie were on their first trip together in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, and while walking along the beach one day, they decided to adopt a go with whatever comes our way frame of mind. To be spontaneous, participate, and most of all, to embrace the full experience of their surroundings. So, when they heard the Barker announce the arm wrestling tournament on the happening beach stage outside Billigan's Bar and Grill, Tom couldn't resist. What macho guy could? So despite not being one for the spotlight, Julie agreed to let Tom sign her up. She prepared herself for the ladies-only athletic contest by downing margaritas with the discipline and enthusiasm of an ancient Greek Olympian. After all, a six-pack of Corona and a bucket of ice was at stake. The event proved quite popular and drew an even larger audience than the previous pageant, which surprised Tom as it featured a bevy of blonde, bikini-clad babes. Julie's opening rounds were a breeze as she knocked off the other entrants one by one with her large smile flashing all the while. This did not surprise Tom, who was well aware of his beloved's beefy right arm, which belies her sweet beauty. "It's my decorating arm," she insists when telling the story. Julie is a professional cake decorator who wields and maneuvers any given weight of frosting dispenser or implement of embellishment with her dominant right arm. One does not readily think of persons of her profession as having incredible unilateral strength, but the Canadian female logger she eventually met in the final round was about to find that out. Eventually, because the crowd and Julie waited what seemed like an eternity until her opponent was essentially dragged back up onto the stage by her friends. Tom noticed a certain fear in the woman's eyes, which he found curious, given that her body was larger and stockier in all dimensions than that of his darling, comparatively little Julie. This pairing did not result in the easy, over you go outcomes they had experienced in previous rounds. Julie and Miss Canada Lumberjack had met each other's match. The ensuing duel would have made the folks in Petaluma proud. The women went at each other with the intense determination of two hungry mother grizzlies fighting over a salmon to feed their young. Faces reddened, sweat poured, grunts and groans flew forth, teeth gritted, and Julie's ubiquitous smile was replaced by complete facial tension. Neither was about to cave a single unnecessary nanometer in the less favorable direction. The conjoined hands moved from slightly one way, then the other way, and in moments were seemingly frozen in the middle. As always happens abroad, the match soon turned nationalistic. It was no longer the cake decorator up against the logger, but rather America versus Canada. Read the world. Chants of USA, USA, and Canada, Canada burst forth from the ever-growing mass of spectators. The vociferous crowd appeared to be equally divided between the large number of Americans who traveled to Cabo and the Canadian plus all the other foreigners who were simply cheering for the non-American. But the clash was really about two very strong females whose bodies were each fully committed to winning. Tom timed the epic battle at over 10 minutes. Julie was beyond spent. Back at the hotel that evening, which was miles away from the beach, whom should they encounter but Karen, Julie's final round nemesis. Seeing the two women standing side by side, Tom was able to fully appreciate the huge difference between their physiques. Enemies no more, the likely pair now commiserated about their shaking, aching bodies. It was there and then that Karen revealed the reason for her delay in taking the stage for the climactic bout. She had a horrible fear of losing after having watched Julie readily dispatch all her earlier opponents. In the end, the Canadian had been victorious, but those of us who know Julie are nonetheless very proud of her for a variety of reasons. And we will now all think twice about getting on the bad side of her right arm. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for coming to celebrate the life of a very special, funny, beautiful, and loving person. And we've heard some of the stories with different perspectives about who this individual is. And your presence today is an honor to Jules, and that means a great deal to me. Again, thank you. Every couple has their story about how they met, and those stories often include a funny side. It's the same for when I met Julie, and that story also sets up a lot of the framework for our continuing relationship. If you've heard our story before, please listen again, along with some lessons learned. Julie and I both appreciated sculptures, and we arrived separately at Wenatchee Valley College one afternoon for a presentation by a sculptor. I didn't know it, but she'd been sitting in her car in the parking lot, watching the arrivals of each individual and sizing up everybody who was coming to the event. She noted the type of car that they drove, their age, their apparent relationship status, and the looks of each person. You know, thinking back on it now, our little Julie may have had some tendencies in common with a stalker. But we're not going into that story right now. Instead, this is the story of how she came out of her car when she noticed that I stopped to ask for directions. And as a guy, that's not very easy, for the directions to the art exhibition hall. Neither of us had been there before, and she was nervous about going in there alone, or frankly being at the college in the first place. When I noticed her approaching from my behind, I turned to ask her if she knew where she was going. She shook her head, no, and smiled. Yeah, that same smile. That same smile that we all know and instantly love. It's no overstatement to call her uncommonly beautiful. And I had enough sense to ask if she would accompany me through the exhibit, which, fortunately, she did. After enjoying the presentation, sipping wine while walking among the artworks and conversing, I told her I needed to be at my home office for a short work call from a colleague, but would like to continue talking and drinking wine with her. She readily agreed and joined me for a glass. At my home, she sat on the couch as I poured wine for her, and then I got through my work call just as fast as I could. Afterwards, though, I pointed out to Julie that I knew she was fresh from a long marriage. She was a new hot item in the dating scene and in need of some protective steps. Well, from her expression, I could tell that I scared the smile right off of her face. But you know what? I went ahead anyway, and I outlined, the mistakes that she made in coming to my house. For instance, I told this woman that I had just met, she had left her car at the college and rode with me in mine. She hadn't told anyone where she was going or with whom. And she accepted a glass of wine that she did not see me pour.
That's really for you.
This is not good dating technique. But you see, Julie had brought out in me a need to protect her and teach her what I knew about what could go wrong. I took her back to her car before it got dark and managed to exchange phone numbers. Although, to be honest, I wasn't sure she'd want to reconnect with someone who could see the world so darkly when she exuded so much light. Apparently, though, Julie did forgive me for focusing on the potential for things to go wrong. Since she seemed naive about the world, I continued to teach her about protecting herself and being prepared. But it didn't occur to me she was also showing how to see the best in people and situations. Let's just say Jules had an uncomfortable relationship with mathematics and technology. And I'll leave it to her coworkers to provide stories about the mandatory work inventories that she dreaded. So it was like a mission for me to explain how to use her phone or a computer, along with division, fractions, percentages. And she would just patiently wait and listen. And then she would tell me, just give me the answer. Of course I did. So while I was busy trying to teach her about numbers, Julie was quietly trying to teach me about what really counts: caring, patience, and kindness. So over the next few years, I gave her information on building and managing finances and planning for the future. Julie tried to teach me to fully live in the moment, enjoying the simple things, like a smile, a moonrise, a first berry from her garden, or the sunshine on your face. Having dealt with a lot of contracts, I tried to teach Julie how to create a fair and binding agreement. Seemed reasonable. Meanwhile, though, I didn't realize Julie was trying to teach me the more important bond of unconditional love, warmth, and unlimited trust, and sealing a deal with a smile. Now, dancing with Julie was quite an exercise. Neither of us knew what moves she would use next. Ribs, shins, toes, nothing was safe. And there was a good chance she was going to land on her butt. I tried to show her some very simple steps to follow so we could coordinate on the dance floor and both remain vertical. However, she tried to teach me that it's more important to express enthusiasm and happiness for being alive. As I tried to impress on Julie the importance of strength training in order to be able to do more and to withstand challenges and the threats from within our own bodies, Julie tried to show me how to be a gentle spirit in this life. Using words accurately has long been useful for me, and it seemed important to have Julie develop her vocabulary. I once joked that since she was a few months older than me, that made her a cradle robber. I had to explain what a cradle robber was. But from then on, she proceeded to tell others that she was a grave robber. There's more than a slight difference, and you can imagine the bewildered expressions and responses that she got from people. I finally just gave up trying to teach her the meaning of each term. Many of my instructions never resonated with Julie. But you know what? She can be forgiven because she was patiently teaching more important lessons. Instead of concentrating on facts, figures, words, and exercise routines, Julie had a deeper knowledge. It's been said the eyes are the window to the soul. Julie demonstrated that a smile is a door to the heart, and her door was always wide open. It's humbling for the teacher to realize he's really the student. The education by Julie is just becoming clear to me, and there's more to learn. But the lessons are there to draw upon as we reflect on so many special moments together with Jules, and we benefit from sharing treasured stories, realizing how they connect us with each other and with her. We're here today because we value those memories and those feelings that Julie shared with us. Even after all these months, as your presence here today confirms. It is sad she's not here with us today. Or is she? Don't we each carry a piece of her in our own heart? She would want us to open that door by sharing a smile. Laugh at ourselves. Find happiness in this moment. And be kind. Don't get hung up on the words or getting them right. Focus on the meaning and the love behind them. Express joy openly and dance like no one is watching. To help us share more of those Julie stories, radio personality Brent Rhodes will bring a microphone to those who would like to pass along a thought or a memory. Please stand or raise your hand so Brent can find you. Tell us your name and how you knew Julie. Thank you.
All right, who's going to be first? Who's going to be the guinea pig? Right back here. All right, good. Because I was going to do it if you weren't.
I didn't know Julie that well. I really didn't. But I know Tom. Tom was my big bro at Sycamore at Willamette. And I can tell you this right now. The words Tom said say everything about Julie. I love Tom. The things he did for me at Sigma Chi as my big bro. And what he said about Julie is everything you knew about Tom. And really, if you think about it tonight, we're celebrating Julie. But the real hero tonight, if you think about it, is Tom. The words he said, the way he expressed them, his love for Julie. If you think about it tonight, it's not really about Julie in a weird way. It's about Tom. And I hope you all let Tom know that. Love you, Tom.
Who else would like to have a word here today? All right.
Hi, my name is Monica. I work with Julia in the bakery, and she was the best friend I ever had, and she was a wonderful person, and she was always here for me and always here for everybody. I just want to say that she will never be forgotten, and she will always be in my memory and life. I love her, and she was a good friend, always here for everybody, and I miss her.
All right. Anybody else over here? While we're this direction. I'm married to Holly, who worked with Julie and all the girls in the bakery, and so I was regaled with lots of stories about Julie over the years, and so as I'm listening to people talk about here, I'm hearing all these little bits and pieces and the stories that Kevin told and many of the things that Tom said. And by the way, Tom, thanks for this event and the work that you and everybody that put this on did. This is an amazing, befitting celebration of our friend Julie, our sister, mother, wife. This is an amazing event. So thank you for everybody that did this. But I wanted to tell you about this particular story about Julie. And as you know, from knowing her, she was maybe the kindest person that you'd ever met. I can't be too far off of that. And I don't know that I saw Julie mad ever. She always wanted to know how you were doing. She wanted to know about you. She would ask about you no matter what was going on. And we came upon a situation that required a little bit of tact. She was selected as an Employee of the Year at Costco several years ago. And I think the Blues were maybe guilty in this with me, I want to say. There were a couple of orders of business. Number one, we couldn't let her know. And number two, we had to get her to show up to the party, which she was lukewarm to at best. So we were having a little, it was right around Christmas time, we were having a pre-funk at my place. And knowing Tom and Julie, you know that they love wine. Now, you may not know this about me, but I love tequila. The two really shouldn't meet, but they did that particular night. The Villanis were with us, and the Blues, I think, were there. Weren't you guys there? And I don't know, there was probably 8 or 10 of us around, and Julie had no idea this event was happening at her Christmas party. And we might have got a little carried away, maybe just a little bit. We got her to the event, and we're all sitting at a table together, and when the announcement finally came, that was as close to mad as I have ever seen Julie look towards me. And as I'm standing here thinking about this, I'm wondering about what lesson she told you later that night. That was a really special night. Anybody else want to talk about Julie? You do? Okay, good. I've been waiting for this all night. Glad you're going to do this, Max.
Great. No pressure. There's not much.
I'd just like to say, oh God, I'm gonna start crying.
Oh, it's okay. All right.
Give me 5 minutes.
Someone else.
Let me regroup.
You can hit.
Actually, you know what?
You're fine.
I remember growing up in Lake Chelan, Carly, Josie, and I, we lived in the mountains in Chelan, and I remember, I can't do it right
No, 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 come on. Come on, you can do it. It's okay. It's okay if you cry.
We'll cry with you. It's all right.
It's okay.
We already are anyway.
We're good.
Yeah, my mom was a really, really strong, awesome woman. I remember, yeah, like I said, getting from high school after like wrestling practice. It'd be like 6 in the morning. We'd have to drive home in the mountains of Chilean. And we didn't have 4-wheel drive cars for some reason. And we couldn't make it up the snow, so we'd have to stop like 2 miles away from our house with groceries and us kids. It just started hiking up, and she'd always make sure we were warm and comfortable and happy. We'd get there, and she'd do the same thing. She'd go to Costco the next thing in the morning, or Safeway at the time, at like 4 in the morning. Like she had 2 hours of sleep, and then my dad at the time would take us, but she was always just there for us, and whatever it took, she'd, make it happen. Like, it's horrible. This is terrible, you guys.
You're fine. You're
It's
good.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah. She just died way too young, and she had so much to live for and so much more to experience, especially with Tom. They had plans, like a 4-month trip in Europe, and I just wish she got through that, because she kept asking me, like, Max, how's Italy? How's Paris? How's, Venice and all that? I'm like, Mom, you're going to experience it soon. Just get ready, because Tom's taking you on an awesome ride. And then, yeah, the situation, obviously, everyone knows, got really bad. And at least I got to see her in Florida and do that. And it just, shit hit the fan really quick. And, yeah, I couldn't really experience it with her, but I thought about it and tried. Sorry. Guys, this is really rough.
Yeah.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, we just, gosh, I feel like I know all 3 of you kids. Your mom, and I'm not the only. Every single person knows this. These kids were the world to her. So, thanks for sharing, Max. That's amazing. Anybody else? We have anybody else? Manny?
Hi, everybody. Just in case you guys don't know me, I'm Annie. Nice to meet you all. It's a beautiful day here. It's more like a quote, not a quote, more like I just want to say that this is very fitting. Smiles for Julie, because Julie was all smiles. And I just want to make sure everybody that leaves here tonight knows that if you smile, she's smiling with you. So she's an amazing person, and just don't forget that, and we'll make it through.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I have enjoyed walking around to the tables and looking. I think I've looked at every picture here, and this is pretty remarkable. All right, Randy.
My name is Randy. I've known Tom for a few years now. 1977, I believe it was. Long time. Anyway, when my kids were growing up, pretty much, yeah. Tom was single for a long time, so we'd invite him on vacations. And I remember once we were going to Lake Roosevelt on a houseboat. And we said, well, Tom, you're in the area, kind of, sort of, why don't you come with us? And he said, well, I'll show up. So he showed up, and that's when we met Julie for the first time. And we thought, okay, Tom brought this girl. I don't know about this girl. The kids were very protective of you. But my daughter has this one story that she loves to tell about Julie. One night, right before dinner, Julie prepared an incredible meal, of course. And she said, oh, wait, don't start. I can't find my glasses. Everyone help me find my glasses. So we all got up, And there are like 8 or 10 of us who are looking for these glasses everywhere, pulling drawers out everywhere. Everyone except my daughter, Lexi. She sat at the table and didn't get up. And I thought, well, that's rude. And she starts laughing and says, Julie, they're on your head. And Julie's reaction is what I remember the most. She was not embarrassed at all. It was just an incredible moment of just smiling and, hugging everybody. And that's when we all fell in love with Julie. We thought, wow, don't mess this up, Tom. We want Julie in our lives, so don't mess this up. And you didn't, thank you. But that was just the quintessential Julie. She was just always happy, always there, always a part of everyone. And I don't think she ever got embarrassed about anything. No. She was just loving life every day. So thank you for not screwing this up.
Yeah.
Anybody over here want to see? Good. I started to say about these pictures a minute ago. I was walking around looking at all these photos, and everyone's different. And I hope you saw the board over here. And and this whole day hearing all these stories makes me feel like I'm getting a chance to say hello again, and it just reminds me how wonderful Julie was. What's that?
Hi there. My name is Kevin Morris. I ended up living next door to Julie when I first met my wife, Chris, who was staying next to Tom and Julie. I probably knew Julie the least of anybody here, and that's probably why this is most important, because I didn't know her very long, but wow, what an impression that she has made on my life, and I obviously have seen as many people that are here tonight. I'm sure I'm not the only one. My mother, who at the time came over to visit us, and then we went to work, she walked down the street for a walk and came back and walked into the wrong house, which happened to be Julie's. I didn't think she was going to come back to our house. She really enjoyed hanging out with Julie after she walked in the wrong house. I also had the opportunity to, because I'm a foot doctor, happened to be in the hospital during COVID when not a lot of people could go visit her when she needed people to visit her. And so I kind of snuck in there and was able to visit her, and I could hardly ask her how she was because she was too busy asking how I was and how Chris was and how our wedding plans were going. And that's just kind of the way that she was. Listening to Tom and all you really talking about Julie kind of reminded me of this little passage that has kind of stuck with me. And I think it reminds me of Julie. It says, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offerings. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." And Julie's smile was that light. So.
Yeah.
Anybody else over here before we get away? All right.
Hi, I'm Marianne, and I've known Tom and Julie. We both known Tom and Julie shortly after they were married, and we became fast and furious friends. And through the years, I don't know if you've ever known about the wino group, but that's what we became. And did all those other winos back there, raise your hands. A lot of wine tasting parties, a lot of fun, as all of us had as a group. But I think most of all what I want to say is I love Julie. And the thing I most appreciated about her is that as I was raising 2 boys, she had her family, her children to talk about, and we had a lot of conversations. When I would get stressed about raising teenagers and where they were going with their young adult life, your mom was always there to just remind me about how much love just carries you through. And your mother loved you to death. And she was always so proud of you.
Yes.
And I just love those moments when she brought me back down to that level, and it just meant so much to me. And I just want you guys to know that that was something I shared with your mother that I just cherish. I suffered a loss a year before her with my brother. And even though that woman was going through her own cancer journey, she supported me like there was no tomorrow. And I'll never, ever forget the love and compassion she showed me when I went through that loss. So thank you all for coming. That's
All right. Any more speakers? All right. Good. I'm getting my 10,000 steps in.
I'm only at 6,000, so I need to keep stepping. So I have to tell a little story, and my name is Gary, by the way, and I met Tom shortly after moving to Wenatchee in the early 90s, and this, of course, was before he met Julie, and I have to tell you that I've known Tom for a very, very long time, and I've known Tom through a number of different situations in his life. And Tom and I have counseled each other through a lot of good times and bad times. And I remember one particular evening, Tom and I were out to a restaurant in Wenatchee, and we were walking down the sidewalk. Uncharacteristic to Tom, he was kind of opening up to his feelings and talking about the future and tomorrow, and he met this woman and he didn't know what to do, and he wasn't sure about whether he should reveal himself or not, and talked about what he wanted out of the future and hoped for his golden years. And what he was talking about was Julie. And I'd been through this journey many times in the past with Tom, but it never really had the resonation that it had that night on Wenatchee Avenue when he and I were talking. And what I heard in him was something I'd never heard before. And then shortly after that, I got to meet this woman. And it's like, who is this woman? Who has finally stolen his heart? And it was Julie. And he had been through a lot in his life. Some of it good, some of it bad. But Julie was definitely good. He recounted the story he told earlier about the art museum. I was like, Tom, you went to an art museum? Come on, what's wrong with you? That's not the Tom I know. A bar, go down to Jake's, I get that. But an art museum? Come on. But as he talked about this woman, it was very clear that this guy, even before, I mean, it was like the second date, he was in love. He was hooked. That hook, it had barbs, man. He wasn't going nowhere. And, then I got the chance to meet Julie, and so did Karen, my wife, and it was like we really understood. We got it. All you got to do is meet this woman once. You talk about the smile, talk about the outward going personality, you talk about everything I'd like to be, but I'm not. It was Julie. And it's like, I got it. I understand. And we got really lucky because he moved up next to us, and so then we got to see a lot of both of them and meet the kids. And it was like, it's a package. God, Tom, you scored, man. It doesn't get any better. And we've enjoyed this relationship with Tom, with Julie, with the kids, kind of like surrogate, I don't know, whatever. We were there, and you guys were there. And Julie always had that smile. We've heard that tonight, right? Everybody here has experienced the Julie smile, and it's intoxicating. It takes you places that you wished you had been. And the trips to Mexico and and the glimmer of the future. And yeah, you're right. She was gone too soon. The future that you guys had was incredible. I'm a believer. I don't know if any of you are. It's not over. She's here tonight. She sees everything, every one of you that have signed the guest book, she knows it. She's going to know it forever. And you're going to know it forever. And you guys will once again be back together again at some point. It's not over. It's not over. This is one of those destiny things that we all think about, we all dream about, we all think might happen, and it will for all of us. So Tom, you know, you did good. You picked the right one. She was a wonderful woman. And she is a wonderful woman. And someday we'll all experience that again. So Tom, it's to you.
All right. Well, thank you for all the stories. Would anybody else like a turn at this before I give this back to Tom? Nope. All right. All right, Carly.
Hey guys. So, you all know that my mom was like everything to me and all of us, right? And I had the privilege to spend the last month and a half with her, right by her every day, and it was amazing. And we had some hard moments and some of the best moments I'll ever have with her. We binge watched TV shows, we made awesome food, we like hung out, we all three hung out, we were just all three peas in a pod, and it was great. And I also had the privilege to take on her last walk outside, and that was really special. We went around the block a few times, you know, her and I always love houses and just like commenting on the beautiful flowers in the houses and just kind of taking strolls. And we were just talking, and I just kind of asked her, I was like, Mom, are you afraid to die? And she wasn't. She's like, nope, I'll be fine. She's just like, oh, you know, I'm not scared. And I was just so relieved that she wasn't scared. And, you know, ever since she has passed, like, I talk to her all the time. I literally, she's right here, and I say good morning to her every single day. Literally, I'm like, good morning, Mama, I love you, every single morning when I wake up. And one day I was like, Mom, can you please just show me a sign? Show me any type of sign, but I want you to show me hearts. I just want to see hearts from you. So, you know, I went throughout my day, and I wasn't necessarily looking for them or anything, but, you know, I just was walking to work, and I saw one in the sky, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I work with kids. I work with little kids at a preschool, and I swear, you know how kids have that intuition or whatever, and a couple of them came up to me. They're like, Carly, Miss Carly, can we sing a heart song today? And I was like, okay. And just instantly I was like, oh my gosh, Mom is trying to talk to me through this. And then they were like, one little girl came up to me. She's like, will you show me how to draw a heart? And I was like, okay, let's do this. And then like literally later that day, I found a heart sticker on the playground. And then it was just crazy. And then like a couple months later, it was her birthday. And I went up to a park, Marymore Park, and I went and I wanted to kind of do a little tribute to her. I was by myself, and I was just amongst the nature, no one else around. And as I like put her balloon in the sky and, you know, wished her happy birthday, as I was turning to leave, there's like a wall right in front of me was this huge heart that was painted. And I was like, it was just me, nature, and this heart. And I was like, wow, there she is. So she's here with all of us. She's here right now, and she will always be here with us. So I just want to thank everyone for coming, and this is amazing, and it's good to see everyone's faces, and let's continue to enjoy the night. Smiles to Julie. We love you, Mom.
All right. Last call for anybody that would like to say anything?
All right, Sean.
My name's Scott. I'm Marianne's husband, who spoke. Marianne spoke earlier. So I just wanted to tell you real quick how about the night that I met Julie. The wino group was down the street at Raquel's house, and like usual, I was working, and I told Marianne I would meet up with them in a while. So I get down there and I walk in the door, and everybody was kind of involved in conversations already, and so I walked over and kind of made my way in to where Tom and this beautiful woman were at. And obviously that was Julie. I think I was telling Muriel earlier that I remember exactly what dress she was wearing and a lot about that night. But we were introduced, and of course I was listening to her and Tom and some others speak, and I could already see that infectious smile that she had. And we were introduced, and she was so engaging. There's a lot of people that just like to talk, but she was a really good listener too, and that was apparent to me even that night. And she was so inquisitive, just wanted to know more about me. She had known Marianne for quite some time, but I just never had the opportunity to meet her. But I told Muriel, I was like, wow, who is that girl that's with Tom? She's really pretty. and then I started hearing her talk, and I was like, wow, she's just not beautiful on the outside, she's beautiful on the inside. And I second Gary, wherever he went there, about, you really scored. You won the championship there. And so I always remember that. And like I said, her smile. And I think one thing I think that's just kind of ironic is that, there's this smiles for Julie, but really Julie has given us so many smiles. And that's something that all of us will always have moving forward. Even though she may not be with us here physically, she'll be, in our hearts, in our spirits, and on our faces, in our smiles. And Max, I was so bummed that they weren't able to go on that trip. We were fortunate enough, though, that she and Tom and a couple others came to Sonoma County for Marianne's special birthday a few years back. And I got to be their chauffeur, their designated driver, as we went from winery to winery and went around the roundabouts multiple times. After we'd been to the wineries, everybody with their heads out the window yelling and having a lot of fun. And I'm just really thankful that she was able to muster up enough strength and energy to join us. I know towards the end of the evening she'd be like, okay, I'm kind of done, but she hung in there, and that was just a special time that I'll never forget. And I'll never forget the evening that I met her.
All right, if anybody else would like to go, let me know about it here. Otherwise, I'm going to give this back to a guy that has clearly outkicked his coverage when it comes to finding a lovely wife. My gosh, here you go, Tom. Way to go.
That means a lot coming from you, Brent. You didn't do so bad. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody who spoke. But thank you all for coming, for being a part of this tonight. It means everything to me. And I will not forget that you were here. And you're with me. And we've talked about Julie being with us. I think we're going to feel that for a long time, but I can assure you that I will feel what I'm feeling tonight for a very long time. And I want to thank you guys for giving that to me. It means a lot. Thank you. Have a good night. Stay as long as you like. Manny's going to kick up the tunes. It's going to get fun. Thank you.
Your love is like water touching my memory. And I remember your smile when flowers drift on the sea. I can feel you when I look at the stars and the tremble of the falling rain. I can feel you in all of my joy and my pain. Yes, I can. I can still feel you even after you're gone, 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 gone. I can still
I love that. Yep. Stick it with us. That's Chris gave me the word.
Okay. I'm don't get that.
Everything was wonderful.
Oh, you drive right up that Battery Hill. And I went out a long time ago. Another ride was down the
right back the next day.
Get over here when you get home.
You gotta value this stuff. You gotta value this stuff.
Oh, I think they are opening it when I get home. I gotta work
Every single day. Except for Tuesday. Sometimes it gets my nerves.